a successful entrepreneur, Eric Angstrom, announces the final book's release in the Daedalus trilogy. Whatever, the hype is high, and everyone is impatiently waiting for the translation of the book into other languages. And that's where the 9 high-level translators around whom the film revolves come in. One of them is Helene Tuxen, who has to leave her husband alone with their children. He married her because he thought she would work remotely. Helene seemed almost offended, but said that soon things would change. Another translator is Thelma Alves of Portugal, a fairly outgoing and hard-working girl. The next character is an Italian named Dario Forelli. The Italian is greeted by a man who looks like a bodyguard. As soon as Dario approaches, the man silently grabs his phone and walks away. There, Dario meets a future work colleague of his, Konstantinos. The youngest of the group is Alex Goodman. He just seems happy to be there. He's awakened by a personal driver who takes him and 2 other translators, Katerina and Chen, to their final destination. The vibe is a bit awkward. The 3 don't exchange a single word. Moreover, Alex fails to hold eye contact with Chen even for a second. Eventually, they arrive at a French manor house. The translators are greeted by Rosie Marie, Eric's loyal assistant. Despite their experience, they feel a little uncomfortable with the current assignment. According to the contract, they must hand over their electronic devices at the entrance. That's so that the translators cannot divulge information online about the new book that's coming out. The nice thing is that each translator will have access to a private room the size of your house, with every comfort you can think of.
Pas mal pour passer le temps pendant l'apocalypse, non?
The large mansion belongs to a Russian billionaire who is a book fan. Finally, they arrive at the basement to meet Eric, a managing director of a publishing house. Eric has hired a team of translators with only 2 months to translate the novel. They have access to a maximum of 20 pages per day. Of course, they have to work strictly only in this room, but someone disagrees. Konstantinos prefers to work alone, but Eric reveals to him that it is forbidden to leave the room with the papers and computer. After they finish translating the first 20 pages, the following 20 pages will be handed to them in this way until the end of the book.
Et comme on dit en France, haut le cœur.
2 months later, Eric is in a French prison, but it is not clear whether he's the imprisoned one or the visitor. Apparently, he's talking to someone who managed to get their hand on the Daedalus manuscript before it was even published. Eric is very disturbed because he doesn't understand how he did it. He's confident that only he and the author got their hands on the manuscript. Back 2 months ago, translators continued to work on the book in the bunker. Some quickly produce 20 pages a day, while others fall asleep after finishing their work early. In such a closed working environment, the 9 translators soon get to know each other. They spend most of their time together, eating and drinking together.
Tu ronfles un peu. Et tu baves aussi.
Also, they're all novel fanatics. In general, the passion for literature is what unites them. They each try to guess what will happen next in the book during dinner, since they only have access to 20 pages a day. As they eat, the others joke that Alex sleeps all the time, but he just says it's his methodology for working. So they repeat this routine every day. And some of them get so deeply immersed in the story that they get emotional. This touching moment is interrupted by Eric, who hands them the following 20 pages. Eric then asks Dario to delete his tweets concerning the next book. Dario justifies himself by saying that he's just advertising the book, but Eric has the ready answer. Eric is impressed by Katerina's skills and invites her to his office. As he walked away, Katerina tried to open her bag, where the 3rd book was. She tried the most frequent 3-number codes, such as 365, the number of days in the year, or 777, a holy number. The code turned out to be 069. What a perverted. Katerina opens her bag and finds the original manuscript. She is thrilled. Even words cannot describe the satisfaction she feels at touching the book of her dreams. Soon after, Eric entered the room and sat as if nothing had happened. She immediately notices that the bag isn't fully closed. Katerina gets up and stands with her back to the bag, closing it with one hand while drinking with Eric.
À Paris.
In the following scenes, we jump back in time when the author had just finished writing the 3rd book. We are located in Normandy, France. Eric pulls up in his car in front of a bookstore. Inside, we meet Georges, a former university professor and Eric's mentor. Georges is not interested in money and fame. He is content to stay in this small bookstore and live a quiet life. He has no problem handing Eric the original manuscript of Daedalus' latest book. Back in the present, Katerina takes a dip at the mansion after a long day at work, but she doesn't do it to relax, but wants to feel like the protagonist of the last book who drowned to death. But shortly after she plunged into the water, Alex arrived. The young man thought she was really drowning. Later, the two will realize that they share the same passion for the novel, but much more intensely than other translators. In fact, Alex and Katerina are able to understand profound aspects of the book that others are blind to. Katerina expresses her displeasure at Eric's superficial speeches about the book. One day, the translators happily celebrate Christmas together. They play and enjoy good champagne. They even start singing What the World Needs Now together.
It's love, sweet love.
Meanwhile, Eric eats dinner alone and, in the process, receives a shocking message. Soon after, security guards enter the translators' rooms and check every nook and cranny. Then, Eric gathers all the translators in the bunker and reads them the message. It says that the first 10 pages of the novel have been published online and that more will be revealed unless he pays them a ransom of $5 million. The message ends with lyrics to the song they sang during the Christmas party. It is evident that the one who published the pages is among them, but now they have to figure out who it is. In fact, Eric stops the translation until they find the intruder. Dario is as confident as ever. At the same time, Konstantinos bursts out laughing because Eric is in deep trouble.
Excusez-moi, c'est juste que si vous ne payez pas tout de suite.
If he doesn't pay the $5 million on time, the hacker will publish other parts of the book and sales will drop considerably. Eric looks at him ruthlessly and signals the security guard to calm him down. From then on, things take another turn. The translators are not only monitored like prisoners, but are also threatened by guns. The publishing firm analyzes the situation and considers whether to pay the hacker or call the police. Once published, the novel will earn them well over $5 million. Still, Eric is furious that the story's contents were leaked, and he assures the other contributors that he will find the intruder. The guards continue to check the translators' rooms and find several interesting things. Finally, they find a stack of manuscripts in Helen's room. It turns out that she had been writing her novel while translating Daedalus. This is forbidden by the contract, but she could not resist the temptation since she had to take care of the children at home and could not write. Eric takes a look at the manuscripts and insults Helene's writing style, pointing out the fact that she simply has no talent. After that,
Un jour, vous me remercierez.
he took the manuscripts and threw them into the fire. Translators gather to discuss the serious situation. It's very annoying and unfair for their personal space to be invaded when the blame should fall on one person. Konstantinos is on the side of the hacker. In fact, he's only here for the money. In the discussion, they point the finger at a man with his arm in a cast because he could easily hide a device in the cast. In a fury, Thelma grabs his hand and controls it. She finds nothing out of the ordinary. The pressure in the group increases and it will not be easy to keep a cool head until the end. Alex Goodman returns to his room and Katerina follows him. Alex claimed to have translated the first part of the novel. Still, she did research before entering the bunker and found no documentation of it. She exposes his lie and demands a proper explanation. Alex tells her how 3 months ago he was arrested for illegally translating the first part of the novel. In doing so, he managed to raise 10 million readers of his translation. Eric Angstrom, of course, reported him to the police and Alex risked 5 years in prison, plus a considerable fine. Alex begged him to work for him as an official translator, even for free. Initially, Eric was disinterested because he already had a translator.
Can you leave us alone for a moment, please?
But his opinion changed when Alex revealed that he knew the incipit of the third book. Meanwhile, Eric sends Rosemarie to London to gather information about Alex Goodman. After that, he gathers the translators back to the bunker for further investigation. Eric suspects that the culprit will continue to send text messages, so he forces them to undress and stand still. While the translators are standing in line without clothes, Eric receives another threatening message. It says that more content will be revealed tomorrow and that the price to be paid will be tenfold. The sum to be paid rises to $20 million. At this point, Eric realizes that the messages are coming from outside, but still suspects that the culprit is among them. Eric points the finger at Katerina, who has worked harder than others to get his attention. In fact, he thinks she did something when he called her to his office. Dario impulsively runs at Katerina and grabs her by the hair. Eric stops the security guards and lets the conflict between the translators escalate.
Moi, je le sais que c'est toi. Je le sais.
Eric threatens to not pay them a penny if they do not find the culprit. After that, he leaves and turns off the light and heater. The group lights candles. They begin to talk about their lives and the loved ones waiting for them at home. Fear, anxiety, and depression fill the enclosed space in which they're trapped. In a state of crisis, Helene reveals that she doesn't miss her family because she didn't want to have one. She's always wanted to be a writer, not a translator. Moving forward 2 more months, we see how Eric humbly asks the alleged thief of the novel to tell him how the contents were stolen. After that, it is revealed that Eric is talking to young Alex Goodman. In fact, Alex invites the CEO. Alex just asks him to arrange a meeting with the author of Daedalus, Oscar Brock. From that scene, we go back to when Eric first picked up the third manuscript. That evening, Georges realized that Eric was too greedy for money and fame and told him that he no longer wanted to work with him. Eric did not expect such a response and offered him a larger share. Georges does not care about this. He wants to stop working with Eric because he's forgotten what art is and behaves with the translators like animals by locking them up in the bunker. Back at the bunker, we see Dario wandering around the mansion with a candle in his hand. At the same time, Katerina and Alex meet accidentally in the library. At that moment, Katerina tells Alex that she knows about the lie concerning the incipit of the third novel. Alex tries desperately to convince her that he is the biggest fan of Daedalus author Oscar Brock. Alex asks her if she wants to meet him, and the girl gets charmed. Moving forward 2 months, Alex reveals to Eric how he stole the third manuscript. Alex learned that Eric suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder and takes the same subway every day. He's always extremely punctual, gets on the train simultaneously, sits in the same seat, and finishes the trip in 15 minutes. Along with other translators, Alex made a team effort to take Eric's suitcase and in 15 minutes created an exact copy of the romance. Moreover, we find out that Alex had planned everything from the beginning. Every move and every decision had been carefully studied. Alex managed to persuade part of the group of translators to help him. You see, translators are paid with translation fees. They cannot earn copyright fees, and sometimes they're accused of copyright infringement. This is a complaint that translators have long been unwilling to endure, so they agree to participate in Alex's plan. We see a crucial scene in which one of the translators falls on the floor and forgets to put Eric's pen back in the case. After photocopying the manuscript, they return the case to Eric, who eventually suspected nothing. Eventually, the translators get together to take turns reading the novel aloud. Here we find that all the arguments and certain dialogues between the translators are staged. However, they could not foresee everything. Back at the bunker, we see Darius wandering around the mansion with a candle in hand. Suddenly, he finds Helene, who has decided to end it all. The woman was in depression and couldn't bear Eric's humiliation of her novel. Everyone is awakened and taken to the bunker. The guards gradually begin to feel sorry for the translators. Meanwhile, Eric receives a call from Rosemarie, who's looking for Alex's apartment in London. It turns out that Alex doesn't live in the apartment where he claimed to reside. Javier has a panic attack and is about to expose everyone. He is afraid that Eric has noticed that his pen is missing from the case. Chen tries to calm him down, but Dario, who's not part of the operation, begins to suspect something. At that point, Chen aggressively asks Javier if he was the hacker. Shortly after that, Eric arrived and revealed that he had received another message. The hacker ordered him to pay $80 million or he would publish the entire book online. At this point, Eric pulls out his gun and threatens to kill them. Alex says it is none of them sending the messages, but the software that does it automatically. Eric beats Alex, but he knows that he risks the book being published before the deadline if he kills him, so he starts threatening the other translators. They start speaking different languages to each other, sending Eric into a tailspin. Leveraging their acquisition of multiple languages, they begin to discuss how to get themselves out of the situation.
Appelez Oscar Brack et passez-le-moi.
They decide to split up. Some will deal with Eric while the others will deal with the guards. Katerina suggests counting down in Chinese so that Eric will not understand. But apparently, Eric can count in Chinese. And on the count of 3, he shoots Katerina. Alex suggests that Eric make the payment, or the software will automatically publish the book online. But the CEO doesn't listen and asks for the address of his real apartment. In a short time, Rosemarie finds Alex's apartment. There was nothing inside but the plan and the computer. Eric orders his assistant to destroy the computer, but she finds an image of herself with Eric. He always humiliated her and talked down to her. So now she tells him to go to hell and hangs up the phone. Meanwhile, Alex desperately asks the CEO to call the ambulance. Eric dines the security guard to call the ambulance. Immediately afterward, he calls the publishing house to tell them to make the $80 million payment. Since they don't have the money, his employees sell some of the stock and send the money. Eric is relieved as if everything has been resolved, but a message arrives that spoils his mood. He throws the phone on the floor, but it doesn't crack. It would be hilarious to put the phone advertisement in now. Dario picks up his cell phone and reads the message aloud. The message sender says that he's just teasing Eric and that he doesn't need that money. What's worse, the book has been published online and anyone can download it for free. Alex stands up and asks to call Oscar Brack. Eric freaks out and without any other hope, shoots Alex. Having reached this point, the security guards realize that the affair is going too far and they stop Eric. Dario gets up to bring the phone back to him and Eric smiles. Then he takes a hook to the face. Alex looks like he's about to die, but he has actually crapped himself. Fortunately, he tucked a book into his jacket, which protected him from the bullet. Then on his face, we see the definition of satisfaction, as if everything had gone according to his plan.
La vérité ne bougerait pas.
Returning to the prison visit, Eric asks Alex how he predicted the incipit of the new novel. Alex approaches him and covers his microphone. He's not stupid enough to reveal such a big secret to other curious ears. Alex whispers to Eric the shocking truth. In fact, Alex met Georges when he was even younger. He often came to France during his vacations to stay with his father. He spent most of his time at Georges' library. Alex had a deep passion for literature, so he formed a close relationship with Georges. Alex helped him with work in the library, and in return, Georges gave him advice on writing and let him read what book he wanted. From that moment, Alex began to write his own novels, showcasing his writing talent. The owner was amazed by his novels and suggested that he publish them. He then advised him to submit his novel to a publishing house. Initially, Alex was against it, but he agreed with one condition, which was that he would not reveal his identity. Thus, he and Georges came up with the pseudonym Oscar Brack. All this time, the real Oscar Brack was Alex Goodman. Then Alex reveals that he did not actually steal his suitcase on the train. It was only necessary to convince the other translators. Alex knew the incipit by heart because, as the author, he did not need to steal the manuscript to know what was in it. In addition,
On protège ce qui est à soi.
Alex reveals that the extorted $80 million is now deposited in Eric's account, so the CEO is in even more deep trouble. Eric realizes that his life is ruined and he freaks out. In this state of breakdown, Eric accidentally reveals he has already killed Georges with his own hands. Police officers breathe a sigh of relief that Eric has finally exposed his crime. At that time, when Georges revealed to Eric that they were going to discontinue their partnership, Eric went crazy and pushed him down by the shoulders. Eric knew that this novel would be a big success, so he killed the owner and made the crime scene look like an accidental death by setting fire to the library. Alex planned for a long time to force Eric to reveal his heinous actions. The great part of the film is that you eventually realize that the film's whole plot is actually the story that the book Daedalus is about. In the end, the officers heard Eric's confession. They sounded the emergency alarm when the inmate put his hands on Alex. Eric started to strangle Alex, and when the officers arrived, he desperately shouted that Alex was Oscar Brack. At the end of the film, Alex leaves the prison. As he walks outside, he remembers how he used to go back to England at the end of the summer and had to say goodbye to Georges. It was always difficult to leave that magical place. He finally got his revenge and sent Eric to prison bars.